The chamber of the Galactic Senate had been prepared for celebration. 100 species gathered beneath the vaulted crystalline dome of Veta Prime. The political heart of the Orion spur columns of translucent alloy curved toward the sky, refracting starlight through its open roof. Banners fluttered in artificial gravity, the emblems of empires that once warred but now feasted on the same prey. At the center, on a raised dais, the Galactic King prepared to speak. His voice would echo in every language, translated across every channel, to every system under the Senate's authority. "Today," he proclaimed, his segmented mandibles gleaming beneath the chamber lights, "we mark the extinction of humanity." The statement was not greeted with silence. Senators erupted into applause, striking the floor with ceremonial staves, their various voices producing a chaotic chorus. Some species hissed. Others barked in excitement. A few pounded their thoraxes in triumph. After 3 centuries of conflict, of border wars and endless skirmishes, the long-feared humans had finally been erased from existence. So they believed. They spoke of Earth as an irradiated husk, its oceans boiled into poison, its continents glassed and cratered. They spoke of human colonies reduced to ash, orbital habitats ripped apart, entire fleets smashed by overwhelming firepower. By all records, the species was gone. The proclamations flowed like ritual. Humanity had resisted assimilation, rejected treaties, ignored ultimatums. Their stubborn defiance had cost the galaxy billions of lives, disrupted trade routes, and toppled alliances. Even now, the words were spoken without pity. The Senate congratulated itself, as if humanity had been nothing more than an infestation to cleanse. But for those who had truly fought them, there were no cheers, only unease. No human bodies had ever been displayed as trophies. No prisoners had ever been captured alive. Battles ended not with surrender, but with silence. Entire fleets went dark, vanishing without escape pods or distress calls. A fortress world would resist the last gun, then fall utterly quiet. When soldiers swept in secure victory, they found no one, no corpses, no civilians, nothing but empty streets and sabotaged infrastructure. The war had not ended with a climactic battle. It had simply stopped. Reports whispered through intelligence channels. Orbital shipyards sabotaged by unseen saboteurs. Entire governors found dead in their palaces. Security systems untouched. Assassins never identified. Convoys destroyed deep in interstellar voids where no human vessels should have been able to reach. The Senate ignored these rumors. The king called them superstitions spread by lesser races unable to accept victory. Yet in every species' history, there was a story. A transport crew swore they saw a lone human frigate appear and vanish without a hyperspace wake. A planetary administrator claimed a shadow walked her halls at night. A warlord's flagship lost power moments before he was strangled by invisible hands. And always, in these whispered tales, there was a name, not a military rank, not an admiral, not a general, simply a name in human legend, Baba Yaga. Aliens try to translate it into their own tongues. Witch, monster, old Mother Death. The name passed from one terrified whisper to another. When children were stolen from human colonies, when settlements burned, retaliation came swift and merciless. Every strike precise, every act unstoppable. The story said she walked alone, hunting those who harmed her children. But this was dismissed as mythology, a relic of human culture used to frighten alien soldiers. Surely there was no single being who could do these things. Surely it was coincidence. The Senate gathered to make humanity's extinction official. They signed resolutions dividing Earth's dead territories among the great powers. Star systems rich in resources were parceled out like spoils. Their languages, archives, and art were cataloged for museums. Some senators spoke about preserving human memory as an academic curiosity, while others recommended purging it entirely to prevent resurgence. One elderly counselor from the Zyre Dominion dared to speak against the motion. His scaled head bowed low as he warned, "You cannot kill an idea. You cannot declare victory over a species that refuses to die." His words were met with derision. The king silenced him with a single strike of his staff. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was declared extinct. Their star was extinguished on every galactic chart. But in the dark edges of space, Far from civilized lanes, ships still vanished. Patrols reported strange signals, pulses of code in dead languages, encrypted bursts that no AI could decipher. War drones launched decades after the war ended still found themselves hunted and dismantled in silence. The Galactic Navy dispatched fleets to investigate. None returned. At first, they sent destroyers, then cruisers, then entire battle groups. Always the same result. Transponders blinking out, crews disappearing without a trace. The official reports blame mechanical failure, navigation errors, piracy. Unofficially, commanders spoke in low voices of something older and colder than war. A mining station orbiting the frozen world of Trelos 9 sent a final, frantic transmission. Footsteps echoing in airless corridors, a human silhouette in the dark, then nothing. When a search party arrived, they found the station stripped of power, its reactor offline, its personnel gone. On the surface, pressed into the ice, they found a single footprint, a boot print. Human. The Senate dismissed it as forgery, an attempt to stir panic. Yet, as the celebrations continued, security protocols quietly tightened. Armored checkpoints were installed on worlds where humans had once walked. Merchant ships traveling near former human sectors doubled their escorts. The king assured them all that these were unnecessary precautions. "The humans are no more," he said with a confident smile. Still, a few remember how the war began. Humanity had not sought conquest. They had not asked for battle. They had only asked to be left alone. And when the galaxy refused, when colonies burned, humans fought with a fury unmatched by any other race. Not for empire, not for glory, but for survival. 1,000 years of galactic history had never seen a species quite like them. They were adaptable, inventive, willing to burn their own ships rather than let them fall into enemy hands. They turned scrap into weapons, defeat into ambush, despair into defiance. Every world they lost became a trap. Every treaty broken against them was answered tenfold. And though the Senate now called them extinct, there remained that single shadow in every tale. That name whispered by terrified soldiers as they checked empty corridors, by governors who slept with lights blazing, by admirals who scanned every sensor feed before closing their eyes. The Baba Yaga. The faceless voice of the archive narrator spoke now, decades later, describing how the Senate celebrated too soon. The footage of that day shows only smiling alien faces, the king standing tall in triumph, resolution signed and sealed. Yet history records that from the moment the extinction vote passed, strange things began to happen within the Senate's own walls. Data streams corrupted mid-transmission, voting records subtly altered, defense grids deactivated for seconds at a time, as if tested. The archives speak of the day fear returned to the heart of the galaxy. Security recordings later reviewed by 100 intelligence agencies confirmed the impossible. A human walked into the Senate without clearance, unarmed, unescorted, unstoppable. The footage begins at the orbital perimeter of Veta Prime. 6 layers of defense satellites, each broadcasting automated kill fields, recorded nothing unusual until they went dark in perfect sequence. No energy surge, no weapons discharge, just silence as each grid blinked out. Planetary traffic control assumed a temporary systems test and raised no alarm. Ground-level checkpoints reported no intrusion. Facial recognition scanners captured every species entering the capital district. Yet at 14:03 Standard Time, in the center of the Senate Hall's Grand Concourse, a lone figure appeared on internal surveillance. Female human, clad in a simple black coat, hair tied back as if she had walked out of a century-old photograph. She carried nothing. No weapons, no armor. Yet every corridor she passed fell silent. Guards standing post felt their comlinks die in their ears. Doors that required 12 separate authorizations slid open at her approach, though no access was logged. Those who tried to bar her path found themselves paralyzed by systems failures. Servo motors locked, power cells dead, armor frozen mid-stride. The narrator's voice describes how the Senate reacted. Panic without precedent. Orders barked over dead channels. Elite protection units scrambled from hidden barracks, only to find their transport lift stalled. Entire squads sealed inside armored cars discovered their engines unresponsive. Control panels inert, power cores drained. The figure kept walking. Species that once considered humans primitive now recalled old encounters. A trade consortium remembered how human scavenger crews rebuilt broken frigates into weapons powerful enough to fight warships. An insectoid viceroy recalled the siege of Thales Prime, where human soldiers, starving, outnumbered, held a line until their world burned, laughing in the flames. A reptilian admiral remembered boarding derelict vessels only to find them empty, their self-destruct charges set to detonate after he withdrew. Every senator in that chamber had heard at least one rumor of what humans could do when cornered. The Galactic King ordered an immediate lockdown. His voice rang over the public address system, commanding her arrest. But when hall doors closed, they closed on themselves, not to protect the chamber, but to keep everyone inside. The Senate chamber's massive walls became a cage. The human walked the central aisle, expressionless, eyes steady, until she stood within sight of the throne dais. The narrator quotes her words exactly as later reconstructed from multiple sources. She spoke once clearly in standard trade. "I came for my children." No further explanation. No threats, no demands. Yet in orbit, 2 dreadnoughts exploded at the same instant her lips moved, their reactors going critical without warning. No missile launches were detected. No energy signatures registered. One moment they existed. The next they were gone. The king shouted for guards to open fire. Weapon systems activated but discharged no rounds. Power cells empty, though they'd been fully charged seconds before. Automated defense drones swiveled in place, locking targets on their own masters. The chamber descended into chaos. Species that had once boasted of human extermination now screamed for someone, anyone, to make her leave. She did not move. She only watched. Senators began to argue, shouting at one another. Some blamed the king, accusing him of fabricating the human's presence as a political ploy. Others demanded immediate surrender to whatever remained of her people. The king himself tried to flee, but the dais elevators froze as he descended. Reports later confirmed that fleets across 3 sectors lost power at that same moment. Entire armadas found themselves drifting, reactors offline, their crews trapped in dead metal coffins. Then, as quickly as it began, the systems rebooted, except for the ships commanded by officers who led the original campaigns against human colonies. Those vessels never restarted. They remained lifeless husks, monuments to human reach. The narrator details how she finally spoke a second time, but not aloud. Every senator later claimed they heard her voice in their own tongue, a whisper in the mind. "Humanity lives. You cannot kill us. You cannot hide from us." Terror gripped the chamber. Delegates tore ceremonial sashes from their shoulders. Some fell to their knees. Others attempted to call their fleets only to discover their signals jammed by an invisible hand. The galaxy's most powerful leaders, creatures who had ordered worlds burned and populations purged, now quaked like prey animals sensing a predator. The human walked past the throne as the king bolted from the chamber. No one tried to stop her. Those who stood in her way found their bodies refusing to move, as if gravity itself obeyed her will. Cameras tracked her until she stepped through the central doors and vanished. No trace on sensors, no energy spike, no warp trail. One moment she was present. The next, she was gone. In the days that followed, the Senate fractured. Species that had voted unanimously to declare humanity extinct now doubted everything. Were there more humans alive? Where had they been hiding? How had they rebuilt in silence? Sabotage crippled critical infrastructure. Defense contractors discovered their manufacturing lines producing weapons they had never designed. Star forges shifted output overnight, building components for ships with unknown specifications. Attempts to destroy these mysterious assets failed. Sabotage teams sent to eliminate them never returned. Governors who had boasted of glassing human worlds disappeared from fortified palaces. Their security feeds showed nothing but black corridors and the sound of soft footsteps. Fleet commanders responsible for blockading Earth were found dead on neutral worlds, their bodies unmarked, their eyes open in frozen terror. The narrator explains that these events were not random acts of vengeance. They were calculated demonstrations. Humanity showed that it could reach anywhere at any time, without fleets, without armies, without fanfare. They controlled systems the rest of the galaxy barely understood. They had taken enemy technology apart, learned its secrets, rebuilt it better. Every civilization's most guarded codes, Every classified protocol, every encryption key, humans had them all. Whisper spread to the core worlds. She was not alone. She was only the messenger. The Baba Yaga had come to remind the galaxy that humanity still existed, that they had never surrendered, that they had never stopped watching. Political alliances collapsed under the weight of fear. Neighboring species accused each other of harboring humans. Trade networks froze as transport guilds refused to move supplies to sectors where human signals were rumored to be active. Even the king's own advisors abandoned him, terrified that association with his authority made them targets. In the Senate chamber, now nearly deserted, a single recording remained on the throne dais. It showed her sitting calmly where the king once stood. No guards, no ceremony, just a lone human in the most secure seat in the galaxy, her present a silent verdict on the Senate's illusion of power. The first sign came as darkness, not metaphorical darkness, but literal, the kind that swallows stars. Entire sectors went offline in the span of a breath. Navigational buoys dimmed, trade routes went silent, orbital defense grids failed without warning. Civilian broadcasts dissolved into static. At first, the Senate thought it was sabotaged by rival empires, but then the pattern emerged. Only systems that had participated in humanity's purge were struck. The narrator's voice recounts how worlds proud of their victory over Earth found themselves isolated. Fleets dispatched to investigate vanished without even a distress call. The few ships that limp home told of shadows eclipsing entire constellations, of ghost signatures surrounding them, of power draining from their cores as if stolen by invisible hands. Then humanity revealed itself. The archives contained one surviving transmission, a sensor sweep of an uncharted region where human signals had last been traced. The recording shows ships unlike anything the galaxy had built. Hulks of alien origin fused with human engineering, patched hulls bearing scars of old wars, weapon systems stripped down to brutal efficiency. They were not pretty. They were not ceremonial. They were machines built for one purpose. 100 such vessels appeared from nothing, decloaking not with the usual flare of hyperspace emergence, but as if they had been there all along, waiting. In seconds, they surrounded a Senate patrol fleet. The aliens tried to hail them. No response. They armed weapons. Systems went dead. Then the human fleet simply moved on, leaving them powerless but alive. A warning, not an attack. The narrator explains this was no invasion. Humanity did not bombard planets. They did not seize territory. They erased illusions of safety. One by one, shipyards that had built weapons for the genocide found themselves disassembled from within. Automated factories produced components that were quietly loaded onto transports marked as scrap disposal. Months later, those very components appeared on human warships. The galaxy realized too late that humanity had been feeding on their own infrastructure for years. Invisible, patient, unrelenting. The Baba Yaga's voice returned, not over speakers, not through transmissions. Every leader who had voted for human extinction reported hearing the same message in their private chambers, their own language, in the silence of their minds. You burned our worlds. You hunted our children. Now you will learn fear. And fear spread faster than any fleet. Empires collapsed under the weight of paranoia. Trade guilds refused to send goods to targeted sectors. Allies turned on each other, each suspecting the other of harboring human agents. Attempts to form anti-human coalitions failed as ships defected. Officers resigned. Governments fell apart under quiet human pressure. The narrator recounts the fall of the Galactic King. His hidden convoy attempted to flee through the neutral zones, escorted by mercenaries and elite cruisers. But human vessels appeared in formation around him without firing a shot. His escorts deserted, disabling their own weapons rather than face whatever walked in the dark. His flagship was boarded without alarms. Hours later, the ship was found adrift crewless, throne room empty. His personal codes later appeared in human broadcasts. It was then that the galaxy truly understood. Humans had not only survived, they had evolved into something the other species could no longer comprehend. They were everywhere and nowhere, advancing not through open conquest, but through infiltration, adaptation, and perfect memory. The Senate tried to sue for peace, sending envoys under heavy guard of the last known human signal. None returned. Instead, days later, Every major news channel carried the same feed. Baba Yaga herself, seated in the king's former throne, looked directly into the camera. No guards, no weapon, just a calm, human face. Her words were recorded once and never repeated, because the message needed no repetition. Humanity lives. We are not your enemies unless you make us so. You will never again raise a hand against us. If you do, you will not live to regret it. The feed cut out. Every defensive system on Veta Prime rebooted to factory settings. Every classified file about humanity vanished from secure archives. Entire fleets awoke to find new orders etched into their computers. Stand down, disarm, withdraw from human sectors. None dared disobey, because their ships had learned to fear their own engines. The narrator's voice describes how this ended, not with mass slaughter, not with planets burning, but with surrender without terms. Empires that once waged total war against humanity now tripped over themselves to declare non-aggression pacts. Trade coalitions opened unrestricted access to resources humans once lacked. No one dared to track where those resources went. Humans made no official government. They issued no public statements. They took no seats in the Senate. Yet there became law. Genocide was outlawed across the galaxy, not by treaty, but by survival instinct. Every species that had once joined in Earth's destruction carried the same unspoken understanding. Cross humanity again, and you would simply cease to exist as surely and silently as the fleet's already gone. The archives show how fear turned to reverence. Alien cultures began whispering human myths to their own children, not to terrify them, but to remind them that some enemies cannot be conquered, that some species will always fight for their young no matter the cost. Statues of the Baba Yaga appeared in markets, temples, and academies across worlds she had never visited. No one knew if they were built from awe, terror, or both. The king never reappeared. His name became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the arrogance that thought humanity weak. His former allies erased him from their records to distance themselves from his crimes. His throne remained empty, guarded by no one, because no one dared sit where she had sat. The narrator concludes with the galaxy forever changed. Travel routes avoided the old human sectors not because they were dangerous, but because they were quiet. Too quiet, the kind of silence that promised someone was listening. No one hunted humans anymore. No one even looked for them. They no longer needed to. Humanity had proven it was not gone, not defeated, not even diminished, merely waiting, watching, patient as the cold void between stars. The final archival line, spoken over dark footage of an unmarked black ship sliding into hyperspace, became legend. They thought humanity was extinct. But humanity is never extinct. Wherever there is darkness, wherever children cry, the Baba Yaga walks.